Officer, and I've got Mike Konstantinidis from METIS Cybertechnology and Frank Emblem from the Blue Maritime Cluster in Copenhagen. Now, what we've got represented here is a kind of a cyber technology expert, a ship owner who's going down that digital transformation, and Frank from the who represents the sort of the maritime technology cluster, I guess, around in Copenhagen, Denmark area. Sorry? West Coast of Norway, is it? Sorry. From the technology perspective, I just wanted to start with you, Frank, if I may, because one of the questions that I just asked of Ronald was very much along the line of sort of like the unexpected use of connectivity. Now, you represent a whole range of different companies here who are looking, perhaps a lot of them had started out looking in the oil and gas sector and have got new challenges coming up. So they're looking for new opportunities and new ways of doing business. Are you beginning to see a lot more connectivity solutions coming out from your members?
Yeah, of course.
You'll have to talk quite close to the microphone.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Of course, all the companies today have this digital angle on their business. So, of course, and satellite communication is obviously a very important part of that. So today, everybody is in this, and the question is to find their role, to find partners, and how to add value to the customers.
So everybody, all the technology firms want to use that level of digital connectivity. Is it a sense of they have to do it to survive? Is it a value added? In terms of how this is all evolving, I hear a lot of companies talk about we're going to go digital. But sometimes I wonder whether it's a sticky plaster on a wound and they don't quite know what they mean by it.
No, I think it's you have to have the customer in mind and give new services, new products. I heard a lot of talk about new technology, monitoring the equipment and so forth. And this is not a point if it's not adding value to the customer. So I think the most important thing is for the companies to do is to go into use this technology to know what the customer wants and then give them the products or services they need.
So it is sort of like they're trying to find sort of the real pathway. But from Bill Wilhelmsen's perspective as well, it's a case of looking at what is available. You're going through a sort of, you're a newly appointed Chief Digital Officer within the company. You've come from outside of the maritime sector. You've got the experiences of sort of startups and the sort of innovative industries elsewhere. What are you bringing in from the digital perspective in terms of how a ship owner is going to look at the levels of connectivity that we see and the likes that Inmarsat provides?
So we see that we want to simplify this and really look at it from the phone perspective. Inside the phone you have a number of radio technologies and access. You have 4G, 3G, GPRS, Wi-Fi, and I think the ship or the vessels will have that flexibility in connectivity, and we will have least cost routing, and we will choose the option that is at any given time the best one.
Do you think there's going to be an issue though, because I mean Frank's members all want to use the data. Ronald, within Inmarsat, you've got a new customer base. This is one of the things that I noticed when I spoke to you a couple of years about this, is you've got this new customer base. You're not just you're not looking at the ship owner as your customer now. You're looking at the manufacturers of getting that supplementary bandwidth that you were talking about. So for you, that's sort of like the added bonus. But from Inge, from your perspective, in terms of how that is that going to add an extra level of complexity to that area of connectivity? When you're talking about, the connected ship and, the different ways that you're going to connect, how are you going to rely on that when you've got other companies wanting to use that bandwidth?
Well, we think it's fantastic that there's a lot of new innovation happening in satellites. Of course, we will see a lot of innovations and new satellite communication offerings. But at the same time, we see also that the vessels could play a role in becoming a part of that infrastructure, where vessels are able to communicate with each other in a high-speed network. So we see a lot of opportunity of new type of access to connectivity. where satellites, of course, will play an important role, but there will be perhaps vessels that are able to have connection to LTE and be able to share that in a huge mesh network.
And Mike, in terms of the use of the data, you look at this from the sort of like the whole sort of connected perspective. I would say almost from the sensor to the shore. And you and I have spoken a little bit about the quality of the data as well. And I just want to sort of look here again a little bit at the data. What are your issues here when you look at this added connectivity?
Okay, when we discuss with shipping companies executives, we accept eagerness to listen to what is the value that they get from adopting modern technology. So the sensors, this is the situation that we have encountered from the design phase of our system, METIS Cybertechnology. Sometimes electronics and the sensors do some kind of mistakes or send some fault measurements, some wrong indications. So what we have done is we inherited artificial intelligence and machine learning mature technologies inside the low-level collectors of the data in the data acquisition phase of the system. So we reject these wrong indications from the source. It's obvious. I can share an example from the real life. For example, when you connect to the GPS of the vessel, occasionally you can get some wrong indications. For example, you get a specific timestamp and you get wrong the speed of the vessel. You can have, instead of 12 knots, you can have 12,000 knots. It's obviously it lost the decimal point at that point. So you reject this indication. Or in more complex situations, you have the reference lines of engines, of machines. So if an indication is wrong, is totally out of the line, then this indication needs to be ignored. This can be achieved only inheriting machine learning technology in our systems. This is the only way. So the industrial revolution that we're experiencing right now is a cognitive revolution.
Does that rely on having always-on connectivity?
It is. Now, as we already experiencing, and we heard from Inmarsat presentation, Inmarsat has done considerable investments on subject. So we now have a solid ground, an infrastructure where we can build value-adding applications because we have the infrastructure, we have connectivity nearly everywhere. So this is essential. Now is the time, more than ever.
Okay, so you've got always-on connectivity, but the question I'm going to ask you, Ronald, now is who's responsible for the cyber security when it comes to that? Is it the satellite provider? Is it Inmarsat? Is it the manufacturers that Frank represents? Or is it the ship owner that Inga represents?
Is this one on? Yes. Well, of course, we all take our share, but from a satellite perspective, we are rolling out that Fleet Express service, as you know about, and that will come with an optional managed UTM service. So we will take our fair share, and we can do the deep packet inspection if needed, and advise everyone on board how to handle in case we find something. So we can keep, from a communication perspective, we can keep the vessel clean, but that's only part of the puzzle. We also found after recent surveys that the majority of the people on board never ever had training on how to deal with a compromised situation or any training where it comes to cybersecurity. So we can provide a technical solution, a managed cybersecurity service as part of Fleet Express, but the ship managers and the people on board are absolutely key to security as well.
What sort of responsibility do you think the manufacturers have here, Frank, when it comes to utilising that level of connectivity? Not just from satellite connectivity, because Mike was talking about all different kinds of connectivity, so was Inga. So in terms of the general responsibility of systems makers?
Of course, when you connect all the machinery to the net, cybersecurity obviously very important for all the manufacturers. And the responsibility, of course, is I think it will be shared. We have the ship owner, of course. We have the manufacturer. You have the satellite provider, and so on. So this is a common
Common issue.
Common issue.
Yeah.
For everybody.
Yeah. You also think there, Inga, the same? Is it a common issue that's going to be shared? And also I'd like you to touch on Ronald's comment about crew training on cyber awareness.
It's going to be a lot more connectivity and a lot more industrial IoT solutions on board, a lot more connected people, and obviously the security need to be managed in the same way that you will do otherwise onshore, and we will see new need for encryption technology, especially when we are adding even more connected networks that perhaps are able to be hacked, or you will see that new type of players that wants to hurt a ship or access the systems on board to.
I think at some point